I want everyone to think back. Close your eyes for a second. Think back to a memory from your childhood. For me, that's my birthday. I can still remember exactly what the Shopkins themed cake looks like. Everyone around me singing happy birthday. For you, it might be something else, maybe a day on the playground. But it was a very joyful time of our lives. If you open your eyes now, the world may seem duller. The colors are not as bright. Things are not as inspiring. Why did that? Why is that the case? When did that happen? Exhibit A, workaholic culture. Now, a study was conducted by Elevator in which they found that 68% of Americans work during their vacations. They admit to it. And this is a problem not only in the US, but especially prevalent in the United States, where the 40-hour work week is the norm, and workers are expected to bring all of their energy into their work. And lots of people work at home. Like I can tell from my experience, my own father, he works a typical work schedule, but then he also works overtime because he keeps thinking about his work. And this isn't just something that happens at workplaces. Students like me are exposed to this concept early on. Now, we typically spend 8 hours at school, and then maybe we have another hour of clubs, and then we come home and we spend 2 to 4 hours working on homework. We bring our work home, and we also get assignments during our breaks. This is just teaching children that rest is not a priority. Exhibit B, joy has become a commodity. Now, when you open a social media platform, the first thing you see is an influencer trying to flaunt their coffee or a skincare product or a Labubu that they want you to collect. Corporations have taught us that more is more. They're selling this idea that the more things you have, the more pens you buy, the more action figures you collect, the more face creams you have, the happier you will be. And it's just become a thing that you have to buy. But interestingly, a study was conducted in which participants conducted a survey, and they found that people were more happy at the thought of experiences over material purchases. Something to think about. And if Exhibit C is dopamine loops. So dopamine is a chemical a lot of us have heard about. It's a chemical that is released in our brain when we do something pleasurable, we do something enjoyable, or we achieve a goal. Now, dopamine is good because it stimulates pleasure, but an overexposure to dopamine is harmful. When we have this crazy thing in our pockets, our phones, and it gives us access to this interesting, very interesting platform, social medias, where you can just scroll endlessly for hours on end, and you get used to these quick hits of dopamine. We spend all of our time, we fill all of our time with social media and scrolling, and we don't leave any room for us to breathe. And we just keep getting that hit of dopamine the more we scroll. Now, when we get used to this amount of dopamine, being bored feels unnatural. And I mean, think back to the memory I told you to think about in the beginning. At that time in your life, I'm sure a big complaint that you complained to your parents about, especially for me, I definitely remember complaining about this. I'm bored. I have nothing to do. I'm bored. I would complain all the time to my parents, I have nothing to do. I'm so bored. What do I do? But those times were the happiest times of our lives. Maybe there's a connection there. Now that we're not as bored, we fill all of our time, we don't have the space to be creative. Because only from boredom can creativity be born. I mean, for example, give a child an afternoon and nothing else, and 30 minutes in, a cardboard box turns into a spaceship, or a fort, or an ice cream shop. But compare that to us. We don't give ourselves the space to be innovative. That causes us to overfill our time with unnecessary scrolling. Now, what could be? I mean, joy doesn't have to be like this. This isn't how we should be, and this isn't how we don't have to accept this as our life. We can find joy in ordinary moments. We can find joy in a song or the rain or a quiet morning or a good coffee. And maybe the biggest source of joy is actually the people you're with. Because being present in the moment matters much more than a thing you can buy. This is actually not just a fun idea, but it's actually backed by one of the longest studies of human development that we have, the Harvard study of adult development. They found that happiness doesn't care about wealth or productivity or your resume, but actually the quality of your relationships matters much more. The key to happiness might just be the quality of our relationships. But why are we still like this? If the answer is simple, put your phone down and be in your moment and be with your family, be with your friends. If the answer is simple, why are we still stuck? Boredom has felt unnatural for us. We don't let ourselves feel bored. We've overstimulated ourselves to the point where being bored feels like withdrawal. So actually, there was a study conducted in which people were first given a boring task and then given a creative task. And those people who were given the boring task first performed much better on the creative task. So this means creativity is born from the soil of boredom. Now, how can we get there? How can we make this switch? How can we become happy in our daily lives? First, reintroduce boredom. Find a 5 minutes, schedule it, honestly. Schedule a 5-minute or 10-minute block of time in your schedule where you can just sit and do nothing. Stare at the window, put your phone down, close your eyes, breathe. Don't necessarily need to think about anything at all. Just let yourself be bored. And it might feel uncomfortable at first, but with time, you'll actually learn to enjoy it. Secondly, delayed gratification. Now, you might have heard of the marshmallow tests where they gave children marshmallows and they told them to wait, and if they waited, they would get a second marshmallow. The kids who waited and got their second marshmallow felt more happy about their marshmallow than the students or the children that ate it immediately. This is the case in our daily lives where when we choose the phone, we choose scrolling over reading a book or cooking something instead of ordering. We choose the easy way out, but we also end up sacrificing the thing that gives us the joy. Is when we wait for something, the satisfaction is greater. So think about how you can bring delayed gratification. So choose the book over scrolling. Choose cooking your own dinner. Choose the long path for walking. Third, protect your relationships. As I mentioned earlier in the Harvard study, relationship correlates to happiness. Good relationships correlates to your happiness. So when you schedule the time with your friends, when you're spending time with your family, you're not just spending time with your family, you're cultivating your own happiness. And fourthly, choose wonder. So Ingrid Fetell wrote this book called The Aesthetics of Joy, and she basically, over many years, studied what specific habits or actions or environments promote joy in people. And she found a very simple answer: color, roundness, abundance, and surprise. So wear the colorful shirt. Fill your time with things that actually interest you. And small things in your environment to decorate your room the way you'd like it to look. Put that poster up there, even if it's nerdy. Because small playful choices are what can shift your mood. Now, today I want everyone to go home tonight. This is your homework assignment. When you go home, I want you to spend at least 10 minutes doing one thing completely pointless. Something that doesn't necessarily add value to your resume. Don't study, nothing. Just sit and draw something stupid. Draw SpongeBob on a piece of paper. Spend your time doing something silly. Because being completely uselessly present is the way that we can bring joy back into our lives. Thank you.